Just like the internet sparked the creation of countless different kinds of businesses, selling everything from books to airline tickets, it also gave birth to new news companies as well. While the brand name newspapers and television networks eventually began migrating their content online, unknown entrepreneurs threw their hat into the news business as well, creating digital-only magazines and supposed news sites like the Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, the Daily Beast, Politico, Axios, Vox, Slate, Vice News, and others. Since the barriers to entry are so low and these companies didn't need to invest in gigantic printing presses or develop supply chains to deliver their product to readers' homes every morning, many of them saw the incredible opportunities the internet opened up. But while most newspapers and magazines require people to buy them, the vast majority of internet news sites are free to read. All they had to do was get people to click on their articles, and the advertisements on their website would fund their operation. So instead of focusing on producing quality content that people would be willing to pay for, they began flooding the internet with sensational clickbait, throwing all journalistic integrity and standards out the window with the one goal in mind of driving traffic to the articles no matter what. The Huffington Post was one of the first financially successful online supposed news outlets. It started in 2005, specializing in clickbait trash and other pop culture nonsense. But due to spamming the internet with countless articles on anything and everything, they generated a lot of traffic and made a name for themselves as one of the most viewed online supposed news outlets. In 2011, they were purchased by AOL for over $300 million. Later, they rebranded as HuffPost, and despite building their entire brand on clickbait, they're part of the White House press corps, further proving that journalism has become a joke in our country. BuzzFeed is another online abomination which took advantage of the new clickbait business model. The site was created in 2006 and began churning out ridiculously dumb quizzes about pop culture and recycling the same handful of topics over and over again to litter Google search results with their spam, often in the form of what they called listicles, like 37 things white people need to stop ruining, 21 things that almost all white people are guilty of saying, and 33 things that almost all white people are guilty of doing. Are you noticing a pattern here? They seem to hate white people so much that after the White House announced the National Day for the Victims of Communism when President Trump was in office, a BuzzFeed reporter declared that the phrase victims of communism was a white nationalist talking point. Aside from their disdain for white people, BuzzFeed also can't stand heterosexual people. When Star Wars The Last Jedi was released, despite Disney turning the movie into a feminist propaganda piece, BuzzFeed still wasn't happy because there were no LGBT characters and suggested that Finn and Poe Dameron should have had a romance as part of the plot. BuzzFeed is perhaps the worst clickbait bottom feeder online and makes the National Enquirer look like a Pulitzer Prize winning publication. Outside of the community of morons who actually follow them on social media, BuzzFeed is best known for publishing the fake news story about Donald Trump allegedly being caught on tape with hookers peeing on him in a Russian hotel. The story about the now infamous debunked dossier had been circulating internally at most of the major news outlets, but nobody had reported on it because it was so ridiculous and there wasn't a shred of evidence to back it up. But BuzzFeed decided that they would get the scoop and ran with it. Then the allegations were all over social media and the golden showers were trending on Twitter, provided cover for other supposed news outlets to repeat the story. BuzzFeed often does the dirty work for the Democrats by publishing salacious allegations and then hyping them up enough to get them amplified by mainstream media outlets, which then hide under the cover of qualifiers like BuzzFeed reports and according to BuzzFeed. This way, they can give the impression that they're not making the claims, it's someone else, and they're just passing it along, because if true, it would be a big story. Vice News is another popular online outlet which regularly celebrates the most bizarre sexual perversions and promotes degenerates as modern-day heroes. Many of their headlines are so horrifying, I'm not even going to read them out loud, and it should be no surprise that Vice News is also on the forefront of celebrating child drag queens and sexualizing children. Vice's founder, Shane Smith, became a billionaire from peddling this kind of cancer. In the early 2010s, they regularly made viral videos on interesting topics that other news outlets wouldn't cover, but Vice quickly devolved into one of the most perverted websites online. And like all other large, leftist, web-based media outlets, Vice is obsessed with criticizing white people and sees white supremacists around every corner. They literally reported that racist and white supremacist ideas are becoming popular among Chinese Canadians. So Chinese people living in Canada are white supremacists now. In 2015, Disney invested over $400 million into Vice, but 4 years later had lost all of their money and wrote it off on their taxes. George Soros came to the rescue in mid-2019 and then invested another $250 million into the failing media company so that they could continue to operate. The investment from Soros was really just a donation to help cover their operating expenses for the next few years so they could keep pumping out their liberal propaganda regardless of how much money it cost to produce or whether they earned any revenue from it. Vox is another well-funded online outlet that sees white supremacist boogeymen around every corner and paints everyone to the right of Karl Marx as a Nazi. They largely function as an activist organization working just to destroy the careers of conservatives by painting targets on their back and smearing them with labels that are difficult to shake. In 2015, they were given $200 million by NBC to do their dirty work without tarnishing the NBC name. One 4th of July, they published an op-ed titled 3 Reasons the American Revolution Was a Mistake that starts off saying, this 4th of July, we should be mourning the fact that we left the United Kingdom, not cheering it. The Daily Beast is another one of these garbage online outlets that exists only to attack conservatives. They call YouTube a radicalization factory for the far right and says that it pulls people down a rabbit hole of extremism. Like others of their ilk, they're always pushing for more censorship of conservative content under the smokescreen of fighting racism and extremism. Defame, demonetize, and deplatform is their MO. Of course, the internet is devouring every other form of media, from newspapers and magazines to TV and radio. And a few years ago, the New York Times CEO predicted that their print edition may only last another 10 years before it becomes economically unsustainable to keep it going. PC Magazine ceased printing a physical edition in 2009 and is now just a website. Computer World followed suit in 2014. Teen Vogue Magazine and Self did the same thing in 2017. Entertainment Weekly and InStyle went out of print earlier this year, and there will likely be many more. Newsweek, once considered to be one of the staples of the news magazine industry ever since its creation in 1933, even quit issuing a print edition at the end of 2012 due to financial problems. About a year later, after it had been bought by another media organization, the print edition was relaunched, but the magazine continues to struggle. When he was president of CNN, Jeff Zucker complained at an industry conference once that his network was having a difficult time monetizing their content online since so many videos are spread through social media, with CNN clips being posted on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, which don't allow for long blocks of commercial breaks like television. That's part of it, I guess, but we all know that CNN has ruined their reputation so much that CNN Plus, their subscription service, failed after just 3 weeks from when it was launched. And if you like my monologues like this here on YouTube, you'll really love reading my books. So order The True Story of Fake News in paperback from Amazon.com or download the ebook from any of the major ebook stores. My books are a lot more in-depth and hardcore than my videos, and your purchase helps fund my work. So head on over to Amazon.com or click the link in the description below and check them out.